So we're gonna get through this together. So here's the two cuts that are proposed for SNAP that have an impact on school meals and child nutrition. The first one is the one that we've heard a lot about since last year. It's the Thrifty Food Plan. In case you are unfamiliar with the Thrifty Food Plan, it is the formula that helps determine what are people's SNAP benefits. And as a result of the bipartisan 2018 Farm Bill that happened during Trump's first administration, the Thrifty Food Plan was updated for the first time in 49 years, and it adjusted the SNAP benefit. Up until then, any update of the Thrifty Food Plan was cost neutral, meaning that that benefit never increased to go with the times. So with the updated formula, we saw that the benefit adjusted to be in line with the modern dietary guidelines and what foods are available in grocery stores. What are people consuming? Now, the benefit adjustment began or rolled out in 2021. And this changed the SNAP benefit from $4.80 per person per day to $6.16 per person per day. This $6 number is very important to share when you're talking to people about SNAP because oftentimes people are just not aware of what the SNAP benefit amount is. I was speaking with somebody one day about the SNAP average. I asked him what he thought it was. He thought it was $80 per person per day. So when I told him it was $6.16, his jaw dropped. And so it's really important to let people know the basics. So moving forward after that, the Thrifty Food Plan adjustment in the 2018 Farm Bill, it was supposed to be analyzed every 5 years and adjust the SNAP benefit accordingly with updated dietary guidelines and all the other factors. So what the proposal does, and the House Ag Committee voted this week on this proposal, and it passed on party lines, 29 to 25. And so what this proposal would do is it prevents future benefit adjustments. And this means that the SNAP benefit itself is going to lose purchasing power over time, and it's going to increase hunger for families participating in an anti-hunger program. And Aaron in a bit is going to talk about how this impacts summer EBT or Sunbucks. The Thrifty Food Plan cost or cut over the next decade is projected to be $37 billion from the SNAP benefit because that SNAP benefit would not be adjusted. It's also important to highlight that these anticipated cuts or these proposed cuts are not going to be attacking or going towards bureaucracy or administration. There's not $290 billion of paper that can be removed from the budget. This is going straight towards benefits and removing people from the program. And how are people going to be removed from the program? Well, here's one of the ways, and this is the cost shift. So currently, SNAP is funded in two ways. One is that the federal and the state governments each contribute 50% for the state administration of SNAP. And the second way is that the federal government provides 100% of the funding for the benefit itself. So the proposal is increasing the state's cost share so that 50-50 is now becoming 75 for the state and 25 for the federal government. Now, this is concerning because SNAP administering agencies are already underfunded and understaffed. So for a state to afford this transition, here's the workflow. Here's how it works. Here's how this is going to be the big one that impacts child nutrition. For a state to be able to afford running the program with this cost shift increase, they're going to have to roll back on state options or state opportunities of customizing the program because no state runs the same SNAP. Every state can adopt different types of options. One of those options is called something wonky. It's broad-based categorical eligibility, also known as BBCE, CAT-L, or colloquially also known as SNAP expansion. When a state passes a SNAP expansion or implements it, it typically increases the SNAP participation pool, or at least even the eligibility, to thousands, if not tens of thousands of people who need the program. And as a result, they start participating in the program. So what then happens is if the state now has to take on an increased burden, it's going to pull back on SNAP expansion. You have the opportunity when you get SNAP expansion to go from 130% of the gross income limit up to 200%. So states that are at 200%, they might roll back to 180, 160, something lower, maybe even coming back all the way down to 130. And this would remove families from the program. The removal of families from the program impacts that direct certification component that provides the children that direct certification to things like school meals and that adjunctive eligibility for WIC. So that's the big one that we really need to be mindful of and be making that connection on. Now, the second thing about cost shift is there's also going to be, they're proposing to do a benefit share. So at the minimum, states would have to put in 5% if they have a minimum payment error rate. But this is a little bit more wonkier. It's not related to this discussion. So we really want to focus on how that administrative cost shift would result in states removing families from the program. So with that introduction, I'm going to hand it over to Erin to talk more about school meals.
Thanks, Salam. I appreciate it. And you're doing well on little sleep, little food. Stellar. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on a Friday. It's a beautiful Friday here outside of DC. I hear it's not going to stay that way for very long, so we'll take it right now. Talking about SNAP's impact, cuts to Medicaid's impact on school meals. At the highest level, the most general talking point is that cuts to SNAP, cuts to Medicaid are cuts to school meals. It is disingenuous to say that school meals escapes budget reconciliation when there are real threats to SNAP and Medicaid. Cuts to SNAP and Medicaid that reduce the number of children living in households that receive those benefits will have a negative impact on school meals and other child nutrition programs, like Salam said. Fewer children will automatically receive school meals. So let's take a step back. Children who receive SNAP, and in most states, Medicaid. Currently, there are 43 states that use Medicaid and income data to directly link students to free school meals. So children who receive SNAP, and in most states Medicaid, they're automatically eligible for free or reduced price school meals. Schools leverage data, existing data and technology to identify students who receive SNAP and Medicaid so that they can be directly linked to free or reduced price school meals without needing to submit a household application. In the school meals world, this process is called direct certification, and it is instrumental in ensuring that eligible children have access to the nutrition they need to succeed in their classroom. Direct certification reduces redundancies. Rather than requiring a family to submit a SNAP application to the SNAP agency and a Medicaid application to the Medicaid agency and a school meals application to the school district, direct certification leverages technology and existing data to better identify eligible students and link them to nutritious school meals. The process supports program integrity, it streamlines administration, it reduces paperwork for both the household and the school district. Essentially, it frees up staff time. It allows school nutrition professionals to focus on their mission, which is serving children high quality, nutritious meals that support academic achievement. Direct certification increases efficiencies within school meals operations. It gives school nutrition professionals time to meet with local farmers and producers, to develop student-led menus, to train staff, and to support overall student wellness, while running an efficient, productive, and compliant operation. So if we really want to improve students' health and well-being, if we really want to improve the quality of school meals, we need to support these efficiencies, this process of direct certification, to give school nutrition professionals time to do that. Direct certification is also the basis for determining eligibility and reimbursement for the Community Eligibility Provision, or CEP. As I'm sure most of you know, CEP, community eligibility, is a provision under the National School Lunch Program that allows high need, high poverty schools to offer all students school meals at no charge. It has been a game changer for school meal operations. It has been shown to reduce childhood hunger, reduce administrative burdens associated with processing those applications. It increases operational efficiencies. It allows for more innovation in school meal service, and it supports higher quality meals. Again, when school nutrition staff are not burdened with paperwork, they have more time to focus on farm to school, scratch cooking, student wellness initiatives. Eligibility and reimbursement for CEP is based on the number of students that are directly certified for free school meals. So if cuts to SNAP and Medicaid decrease the number of students receiving those benefits, fewer students will be directly certified, fewer schools will be eligible to adopt CEP, and schools that are participating in CEP will receive less federal reimbursement, making it financially challenging to offer all students free school meals. Essentially, reducing the number of children that receive SNAP and Medicaid benefit decreases a school's ability to implement CEP and offer all students healthy school meals. Furthermore, we can go on and on, weakening direct certification for free school meals will have a negative impact on states with existing healthy school meals for all policies. So our 9 states that provide state support to schools to offer all students free school meals, they are going to be affected by decreasing direct certification rates. Weakening direct certification by gutting SNAP, gutting Medicaid will potentially reduce the amount of federal reimbursement schools receive and shift that cost, the cost of offering healthy school meals for all, onto state budgets. But it's not just school meals that are going to be affected. Other child nutrition programs are as well. Cuts to SNAP, cuts to Medicaid that reduce the number of children receiving those benefits will also increase hunger during summer and after school. We know hunger increases during summer when schools don't have access to school meals. These proposals will worsen that. So summer EBT, so I'll mention summer EBT. Summer EBT provides a key nutrition support to children over the summer. It provides approximately $120 on an electronic benefit transfer card per child per summer. It has been shown to decrease food insecurity, improve nutrition. It's a great program. This summer, we have 37 states and the District of Columbia, 5 territories, and 5 tribal organizations that are going to participate. Like school meals, summer EBT relies on a process called streamlined certification to automatically issue benefits to children that are eligible for SNAP. So if a child is receiving SNAP, they are streamlined certified. So direct certification in school meals, streamlined certified in summer EBT benefits. Any attempts to limit the number of children that are on SNAP would lead to fewer children being automatically eligible for summer EBT benefits. Fewer children receive benefits to the streamlined certification means a higher number of applications and a greater administrative burden on the state agency. So it's decreasing efficiencies. That summer EBT amount, so that $120 or the $40 per child per month, is tied to the Thrifty Food Plan. So if the Thrifty Food Plan is not reevaluated, it's not readjusted, the summer EBT benefit amount will quickly become inadequate, which is devastating, particularly at a time when we all know cost of groceries is expected to increase at greater rates than average. And there's more. You know, traditional summer and after school meal sites, they rely on something called area eligibility to qualify to participate in the program. Area eligibility is essentially the number or the percent of children in that school or school district that qualify for free and reduced price meals. If an area or community is above a certain percentage, that summer and after school program can participate and serve children free school meals when school's not in session. It really supports child nutrition during out of school times. Any policy that reduces the number of children determined to be eligible for free and reduced price meals, including cuts to SNAP and Medicaid, will make some areas ineligible to serve summer and after school meals. So again, worsening hunger during summer and out of school times. You know, as we're talking about today, federal health and nutrition programs are inextricably linked, and for good reasons. Leveraging technology, leveraging existing data, it streamlines the administration and it increases efficiencies while supporting program integrity. It helps to ensure eligible children have access to the nutrition they need, and cutting SNAP, cutting Medicaid will worsen childhood hunger in the home and in the classroom. It's going to be devastating to communities across the country. I could go on and talk about these impacts, but I know that school meals, summer meals, after school meals, they're not the only ones affected. So I want to pass it over to Kate so she can talk about the impact that these cuts are going to have on WIC.
Awesome, Erin, thank you so much. And unlike where you are, I'm in Philadelphia and it is storming pretty bad here. So apologize if you hear the rain or thunder, but it feels kind of poetic that we're kind of in the middle of this storm with all these terrible policies that are coming from DC. So good afternoon, good morning, everyone. I'm Kate Scully, the Deputy Director of WIC here at FRAC, and I really appreciate the opportunity to discuss the impact these reconciliation proposals will have on WIC. So we all know WIC is a federal program that provides nutrition and health support to pregnant and postpartum individuals, infants, and children up to 5 years old who are in households with low incomes and nutritionally at risk. Sorry, you might have just heard that thunder. So while WIC is not directly cut in the reconciliation process, it is impacted due to a process known as adjunctive eligibility. So this is along the lines of the direct certification, the streamlined certification that Erin was talking about. So in simple terms, adjunctive eligibility allows individuals who are already participating in certain benefit programs like Medicaid, SNAP, or TANF to automatically qualify for the income requirements for WIC. This streamlined process is essential because it reduces administrative burden, increases access, and ensures that pregnant and postpartum individuals, infants, and children get the nutrition support they need without having to jump through those additional bureaucratic hoops. As of 2022, over 80% of WIC participants were also enrolled in Medicaid, SNAP, or TANF, benefiting from the link between these programs. So when programs like Medicaid or SNAP are modified through reconciliation, whether it's through the budget cuts, changes in income thresholds, or enrollment processes, it directly impacts WIC participation. Because we know fewer people qualifying for Medicaid and SNAP means that fewer people are automatically eligible for WIC. So this adjunctive eligibility connection is critical, as we only about half of those who are eligible for WIC actually participate in the program. So any further barriers would just bring that number even lower. And this when we know benefits of WIC are far-reaching. Studies consistently show that participation in WIC increases prenatal care usage, improves birth outcomes, and enhances cognitive development in young children. All of that leads to savings in healthcare and education spending. So these cuts that impact WIC are short-sighted and will cost more down the road. So if you hear a member say that child hunger won't increase because of reconciliation cuts, remember that if Medicaid or SNAP eligibility is restricted, then access to WIC is also restricted. And this can result in lower WIC enrollment, leading to increased food insecurity and worse health outcomes, higher administrative workload for WIC agencies, and reduced economic support for grocers, producers, and farmers when people's purchases decrease. So all these programs are connected, and cutting one has far-reaching impacts. I'm going to pass it back to Salam to finish us out.
All right, thanks so much, Kate. Thanks, Erin. We had a question in the Q&A come through about, are there social media graphics available? And that kind of really just segues us really nicely into the action part of our conversation. So I would encourage people to go to frac.org/action. And there you will find a social media toolkit to help you with graphics, some language as well, and also something known as a FRAC Action Network, be a fan, where you can easily use the template to send a message to your member of Congress. And you can also, we do encourage you to customize that template, share some stories. Why are you writing to your Congress member? Something that differentiates it from the template, so it's not just the same thing that they're seeing. So you're more than welcome to share that link with your listservs, with your family, friends, enemies, because we can probably all unite that no child should go hungry in this country. So that's that. Now we're going to see some other Q&A in here. Let's see. So we've got a question. This is like the $100 billion question. Have we heard anything about what happens if a state cannot or does not pay their share in a cost sharing scenario? We don't. We don't know. This one's a very critical issue because with that benefit cost shift being as little as 5%, or as egregiously high as 25%, I don't see how states can afford that. And we know that state budgets are committed to other obligations, healthcare, education, infrastructure. There's rhetoric from members in different respects saying, oh, states have surpluses. We all know states don't have surpluses, and it's a really fiscally irresponsible way to budget by expecting you're going to have some unanticipated tax revenue. And typically, the unanticipated tax revenue goes into rainy day funds or other one-off expenses. So, all that to say, we don't know what would happen if the states could not pay their share. There's a question in here, Aaron from Abby. Do you see that one about the magnitude of the potential loss of federal funding for our school nutrition programs? Is this something that you want to take online, or should we take this one offline? The number of
Because I think there's
students.
another one, and there's another one down the road too. And first, can you hear me? Because they just started cutting a tree down outside my window. Okay, great. Thanks. It's a little loud in here. So the question comes about the number of students who are directly certified by category, right? So the children can be directly certified for free school meals if they're on SNAP. As I said, most states, 43 states, Medicaid, and with Medicaid, it's Medicaid participation and an income test. And then they can actually be directly certified for free or reduced price meals. TANF, FDPIR, if they're experiencing homelessness, if they're from a migratory family, there's a variety of categories through which children can automatically qualify, be directly certified for free school meals. So the question is, do we know the number of students who are directly certified based on category? We do not have that data on FRAC, but your state agency will. So the state agency that administers the child nutrition programs will have the number of children who are directly certified by category. And that's the data that you would want to use if you're trying to calculate some impacts. The number of students who would lose eligibility for SNAP and for Medicaid, that question, right, Salam, we really don't know because all of these proposals, we don't know if the cost shift happens, how are states going to react, and then what are the number of kids that will be affected. So that number we don't really know. So I would say to go right off the bat, go to your state agency. And Abby, feel free to reach out, email. We can chat more about that offline to get some details. But then there was another question I'm going to jump to, Salam, down below from Ken. The percentage of school meal participants who are directly certified versus individually applying. Again, we don't have that data, but California Department of Education will be able to tell you the number of children that are directly certified, and then you can figure out the number of children totally eligible through free and reduced price meal data. So we look at, in our CEP report, I will know the number of children that are directly certified through all categories in CEP eligible schools. I don't have that for every school. And every school participating in the National School Lunch Program is doing direct certification, whether or not they're participating in CEP or not. Every school is able to look at SNAP rosters, compare it to enrollment rosters, and link those children. So that, again, would be your quickest way to get that. And I say quick, knowing that that's not always quick. But your quickest way to get that might be to contact your state agency that's administering the child nutrition programs. In most states, that's your Department of Education. In 4 states, it's Nevada, Texas, Florida, and New Jersey, that's your Department of Agriculture. So hopefully that answered that question, but Ken, feel free to email too if you have a follow-up.
And a similar follow-up here, Aaron, from Corey. What data relevant questions should I begin to ask of our local school system so we can begin to make the necessary plans?
So I think a few things that you can ask. You can ask your local school district about direct certification, right? So you can ask them, in high level numbers. They're not going to give you any identifying information, but what is the total percentage of your free and reduced? How many students are directly certified? How many students are directly certified through SNAP? So you can look at local impacts that way. And I would also just encourage you to talk to your local food service directors. Find out how these cuts, if they decrease the number of students who are directly certified, what is that burden going to look like from an administrative perspective? How many staff hours, how many labor hours is going to have to go into processing additional paperwork, processing additional applications, and then what is at a loss because of that? What initiative are they no longer able to do? And what we hear from food service directors all the time, it's that farm to school, it's meeting with local agricultural producers and farmers. Like all programs, school meals are complex, right? A school nutrition director is not just saying, I'm going to go buy from the farmer down the road. There is a meet and greet period. There's an understanding of how that operation operates. Are they following good agricultural practices? There's a bid process. So in order to get local products into cafeterias, there's a lot of relationship building and legwork that occurs. If a school nutrition director now has to sit at a desk all day and process applications, that's going to take away from their ability to meet with local farmers, to develop new recipes, to meet with students, to create menus that are culturally responsive, student-led, to train staff. So I would have those conversations and get your local testimonies from your local directors and send them up to the hill. Incorporate them in the messages that you are sharing with your congresspeople.
One of the questions I've seen a couple of times come up is who do we call in, what's the timeline and who do we call in Congress? So the House Ag Committee vote happened, it was on Wednesday. And so I just heard, so what happened after House Ag Committee is that it moved to the budget. And it was heard in the budget today, and it failed. It surprisingly failed. And it seems like the Freedom Caucus members were the holdouts. So they're going to go through some renegotiations, and then going to revisit this on Monday when the House Budget Committee reconvenes. So now is the time to call the House Budget Committee members. And then after that, it would go to the Rules Committee. So then after that, if it passes out of budget, then let's start calling the Rules Committee members. And then after the Rules Committee, it will go to the floor, and then it's just, call your representatives and make sure they are protecting SNAP and not allowing any cuts to go through. Question is, if these proposed budgets get approved, when will it be effective? This would go into effect fiscal year 2028. They're very cognizant of delaying this beyond the midterms. So that it would go into effect fiscal year 2028. Any other questions you see offhand? Somebody is asking, SNAP eligibility for lawfully present immigrants has also been cut, which I believe once again would impact number of kids certified. Is that correct? Yeah, it's so I want to really make clear that it's not live. These cuts are not live. These are still going through the processes in Congress. So LPRs and others who are eligible for SNAP are still eligible for SNAP. But yes, the proposed cuts include removing a large amount of immigrants that are currently eligible, like refugees, asylees, parolees, those who are members of COFA nations who are residing here. So yeah, that would impact for sure. However, I also heard that provision was a last minute inclusion into the bill or into the proposal. Representative Bacon, to my understanding, is working to remove this. We'll see what happens. Another question is about if there are rural or specific numbers for school food and WIC.
So school meals, I can start with school meals. We do reports. We just released one late April. I can drop to the chat. It's about participation. So if you're looking at how many children are participating on a given day, on an average day for breakfast or school lunch, we have it on state level. So, and it looks at kind of trends from last year to this year. So not down on the local rural community level, but on a state level, you can see the number of children participating in breakfast and lunch on a given day. And I can drop that in the chat. I don't know, Kate, if you have anything for WIC.
Yeah, similarly, the USDA tracks it on the state level. So you can find it on the USDA's website as to the number of women, children, and infants that are participating in the WIC program. If we can find any data on rural, I can reach out to you, Bryce.
I see John's request about the blog needing a resource that explains it in a graphic. We'll try. See what we can do.
Question about timeline, right? So timeline of cuts, not timeline of proposals. So the SNAP cuts are looking to 2028, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is about, will the impact in school meals, WIC, and other child nutrition programs not be felt until 2028? So if the cuts to SNAP don't go through until 2028, and that's where we start to see decreasing numbers of children receiving those benefits, then yes, those years are also going to have the impact in direct certification. So after those cuts go through is when the impact on direct certification is going to be most extreme. We know there's other things occurring, right? That is maybe making people hesitant to apply or question whether or not they should apply for the program that are also going to have impacts. But these specific cuts, the majority, the biggest impact will be felt in school meals after people lose access to SNAP. That being said, direct certification is an annual process. Actually, schools do it at least 3 times a year. In most cases, it can vary depending on what programs you're operating. Schools, it's beneficial for schools to do direct certification as frequently as possible to link and identify as many children as possible. And then they are reevaluating their annual direct certification rates on a yearly basis. So, as we saw with the Medicaid unwinding, as Medicaid unwinding went into effect, now schools are starting to see the impact of decreasing Medicaid direct certifications.
Aaron, have you worked on any of the intersections between SNAP Ed and school meal programs?
I have not. We've had a discussion just this week about these proposed cuts to SNAP Ed. It's in the beginning stages. Something that we are looking at and focused on is this movement to improve the health and the nutrition and the diet of people across the country, right? And what we know is that school meals are some of the healthiest meals that children across America receive in a given day. And really trying to make sure that message is loud and clear, that children who participate in school meals have better diet quality than their peers who do not participate, regardless of income, that children who participate in school meals have higher intakes to fresh fruits and vegetables of a variety of colors, whole grains, low-fat dairy, and all that. So in relation to our continuous messaging about supporting health and supporting nutrition, we need to invest in these programs. But the SNAP Ed cuts have just started to come in through our inboxes to preliminary discussions.
Just looking through the Q&A, see, we're looking to answer some of the questions related to school nutrition. We will be having a SNAP 101 webinar on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time, where we are going to explain what new advocates should know about SNAP, and through that process, laying a foundation of better understanding these proposed cuts and understanding why these cuts are so harmful. So a lot of questions, I'm not ignoring them. I want you to come on Tuesday so we can keep this call related to school meals. We'll get, yep. We'll paste a link in here for that. So, okay, this is an interesting question. Talking about the potential, they're calling it work requirements. We call them time limits, and the impact on child's direct certification. So there is a proposal to change the time limits. If a parent or guardian does not meet the time limits, or excuse me, the time limit eligibilities, then what happens is that the whole household does not get removed from SNAP. it would be that parent or that guardian who is not meeting those 80 hours a month. So a household of three, like a single mom with two kids, it's not that all of them would be removed if the single mom is not logging 80 hours of work a month. It would just be the mom. And so their household benefits meant for three people would be gone down to two people. So the direct certification will still be there. Yeah, there's a question of whether or not we're going to include SNAP Ed cuts into our list of things that we're talking about. Yep, we're drafting a blog right now, and SNAP Ed is in there. We can't speak to Medicaid cuts. It's out of our purview. I'm not sure when those would start. We don't have. Do we have an infographic which demonstrates the relationship between SNAP, CEP, and Medicaid, or even SNAP and CEP?
I don't think so, but I'm going to take that back to the team because I think that would be a great resource.
If cuts are passed, will there be an opportunity to repeal them before they take effect in 2028? I need my legislative team to answer that question.
You already said that you didn't sleep, so I assumed you didn't sleep last night because you were busy advocating against all cuts. So Salam will continue to advocate against all cuts until 2028.
Yeah. Um, we'll find out, Tiffany. It's a good question if it's an opportunity to keep fighting. Yeah, and Ashley's mentioning about Snap Ed being lost in the repeal of other things. Yeah, so there have been like the big three cuts that everyone's been focused on. Snap Ed cut came out of nowhere. There was a lot of cuts, proposed cuts that came out of nowhere. So we are working within our blog to uplift and highlight those as well. Kathy's asking about that proposal about time limit issues. We'll talk more about that in the Tuesday webinar. That's the one where it increases the age of the dependent child to, or rather, it changes the age of the dependent child from under 18 to under 7. Can you create a specific survey or a list of questions we can ask at the state level?
Yeah, I think we can draft something up for what you're looking for if you want to have direct data about the impacts in your state. I think generally speaking, if you're looking to figure out how many children are directly certified by category, that's what you can ask for, right? How many children are directly certified for free school meals through SNAP, through Medicaid, and through the other categories. The issue, though, that we discussed is that we don't necessarily know the magnitude of the cuts in relation to those specific populations, right? It's difficult to estimate if they do a cost shift, that's going to affect X number of children, right? So you can say the number of children that are directly certified for free school meals using SNAP. I'm not sure if we know how many would no longer be directly certified if some of these proposals went through. Is that correct, Mom?
Well, what was that? I was reading more questions.
Yeah, like we don't know, we don't have a good estimate right now to say X percentage or the number of children that would lose SNAP benefits if a cost shift happened, right? Right.
Somebody's asking, was there any mention of SNAP outreach in the proposed cuts? No, not that I've seen. So Sarah's asking, why would this not go into effect until 2028? That's the date that's mentioned in the proposal itself. Any other questions related to school meals? The SNAP benefit adjustment change also start in 2028? Yeah, the thrifty food plan would get frozen. Does the Ag Committee bill make any changes to which foods can be purchased with SNAP? This is a question regarding the SNAP choice restrictions that are popping up in a dozen or so states. No, it does not restrict any foods. 2028 means October 1, 2027, correct? Yes, that's when so the fiscal year 2028 begins in October 1, 2027. Wilson's asking, will these cuts impact states' ability to make ABOT exemptions? Yeah, yeah, that's in there. So join us on Tuesday where we dive into that. Alejandro is asking about SNAP error rates and cost shift. Yes, that's also within the proposal. We'll talk about that on Tuesday too. If the SNAP cuts happen, are they set in stone or can changes to the budget be made at a later point? Yeah, these changes can always be changed. But what we are anticipating, and this is the thing, that if this structural change happens to the program, it's really hard to reverse that. So we really need to make sure that we're putting it all out there, trying in as many ways as possible over the next few weeks to make sure that this does not go through. If this cost shift happens, and if we open the door to this cost shift, it's likely we'll never be able to close the door on it. Peter's asking, whatever happened to the farm bill? Is that being continued on previous levels? So Democrats have said that if this reconciliation effort becomes a farm bill, then there's not going to be a farm bill this year because they won't get the bipartisan support that's needed to pass the farm bill. So Republicans have seemed to heard that loud and clear and are trying to make this reconciliation effort like farm bill light. All the cuts that they would want for a farm bill are trying to be implemented here where they don't need the Democrats' votes to put through. So if these cuts go through, the odds of us seeing a farm bill later this year drop drastically to as close to zero as possible. Could you please
Do you
repeat?
see this in the chat about state by state fact sheets about the cost impact on proposed cost shift around SNAP?
Do we have state by state fact sheets about the cost impact? We don't, but what we do have state fact sheets that talk about how much comes into a state with regards to how much SNAP is coming into the state. So when you are talking to your leaders about it, and you can just do like, if our state had to put in 10% of this based on our error rate, then we're not going to be able to financially sustain this. What's another concerning issue with regard to the error rate is that these error rates are published like usually 2 years. It's like a 2-year gap. So if the Congress was going to rely on 2-year-old data to punish states now, then it's ignoring the fact that states are putting in the work to reduce their error rates. So it could it would create a downward spiral where states would be penalized for something that happened in the past, and there's a payment error rate penalty opportunity for states to invest half of the fine into improving their administration. So there's already a system in place to improve things, and states often do improve their error rates because they are underfunded. So they get that opportunity to get 50% additional funds to make something to improve their work. Abby asks about SNAP Ed and the date for that ending. She's not seeing a date for it, so let me look into that and we'll find out. Eric's asking, could you please repeat current Fed state contributions? Okay, so currently the state administration component cost share is 50-50. What the proposal says is change it to 75% for the state and 25% for the federal government. There's also a second proposal or a second part of it that says the benefits, which are currently 100% federally funded, that would change based on state payment error rates. It could be as little as 5% and as high as 25%. Once the cuts go into effect, do they go in all at once, or are the cuts rolling for a few years? I apologize if this is clear, John. They go in effect all at once. There was a proposal about increasing, like doing a phased in increase of that benefit cost shift, but that didn't make it into the final cut. So representatives that say the reconciliation bill won't cut benefits are referring to benefit dollars, but not cuts to admin services that can lead to obstacles for those needing benefits. Well, the thing is the SNAP administering agencies in pretty much every single state are underfunded and understaffed already. For states to take on more of that administrative cost share and receive less from the federal government, that means they won't be able to support their current understaffed, underfunded agencies. So they will have to figure out things and figure out cuts to afford what they can support. The benefit cost share will further take away from their state budget, and as a result, pull back on limited staffing already, and it will just become a downward spiral as things progress. And then as you have less staff, you'll have increased error rates because it's a very complex formula. It's not easy. It's sometimes it doesn't make sense, and you need trained staff. You need skilled, merit-based staff to do the eligibility and determine how much people are receiving in SNAP benefits. There's currently a grace error rate. You can, anything under $57 is given a grace. It's like, okay, that's all right. But over $57, that's when the error rates start taking it into effect. So this proposal also proposes to remove that grace error rate entirely as well. So we're going to see the error rates increase if this goes through. And that would mean that any state that would be at that 5% level, because they have a lower error rate, are going to increase just monumentally from that. Is there a sense of economic impact of SNAP dollars being reduced in these cuts to local food stores where these benefits are used? Is there any data for each state? In our state fact sheets, we show how much retailers in each state have, benefited from SNAP dollars. So any type of cut, excuse me, any type of cut, 5, 10, 20% from that from that amount is really eye-opening for a lot of lawmakers and even retailers as you're trying to bring them into your coalition. It will be a huge economic impact in a negative way to them. Any other questions about school meals? Stephanie's asking any thoughts on the news today on the news from today that Republicans are blocking the current bill for deeper cuts. We got to go harder. Got to advocate a lot more harder. Use the Frack Action Network, frack.org/action. Get the message out. Get all of your listservs involved in reaching out to your members, especially if they're living in somebody's district who is on the budget committee, especially if they're in a committee member who's a moderate and can be swayed. You can also use that Frack Action Network template as a script for when you call Congress. Congress is open. Call their staffers, call the Hill right now, and on Monday as well. There are questions about school meals, then we can the I can't drop the script in here. I think it's too long. But if you John, if you go up to where Frac Communication says use the Frac Action Network to send an email to your members, that link has the template, and that template can be used as a script. And then somebody saying they don't see Georgia. Georgia is underneath California. Has there already been significant engagement on the retailer side of things regarding the proposed SNAP cuts? Any suggestions for action items there? Somebody linked to the NGA, National Grocers Association. They're doing some phenomenal work in this space. FMI is coming out as well to talk against the cuts. More can be done. If you have local retailers in your coalitions, in your states, bring them on board, make sure that they're calling Congress, make sure they try to get the governor involved, especially if they're Republican governors. So that they're also speaking up against these cost shift cuts. We have not heard from state lawmakers. We have not heard from governors, budget folks from states enough, or if at all, or much with regards to the cost shift. They were waiting to see something in writing. They didn't want to talk about something that was just like a draft of a proposal. But unfortunately, when you see something drafted, that means they typically may have the votes. So unfortunately, hopefully it's not too little too late from them. So if you have members that you're friendly with in the state assembly, get them to get the governor involved or something to call Congress, call the budget committee, call the administration, and fight back on the administrative cost shifts.
So I'm going to jump into John's asking about talking points. Steve, we will send out some talking points in the follow-up for everyone who registered, correct?
Yeah, absolutely, we can.
With regards to timeline, they're still trying to get this through by next Friday. I'm not sure. I don't know if Ellen or Tim from our Let's team are on the webinar. They would know.
Yesterday, that's what Ellen said, was that they're trying to get it done before Memorial Day break.
Right.
But that was last night, so things are always changing. I'm sure we'll be sending out emails with updates on that.
Jasmine is asking about a list of how each member voted on the reconciliation bill in Ag Committee. It was a party line vote, so all the Democrats voted against it, all the Republicans voted for it. Deb includes mayors of cities and municipalities as well. Absolutely. John saying there are state grocers associations. Yep, absolutely get them involved too. Are there template op-eds for groups like grocers associations, faith-based leaders to use? Steve, keep me honest here. I think we were contemplating like a letter to the editor templates.
Yes, I think that's still going through the production process right now.
Okay. All right, well, I think that about does it. I hope this was helpful, informative, got you going in the right direction. It's going to be an interesting few more hours to the day. We're hopeful that you can make some calls to Congress for the rest of the day. And then Monday, let's pick it back up. Over the weekend, you can do the emails or, actually do it all today so you can get some break over the weekend. And then Monday, we'll get right back to it. And then Tuesday, we'll see you on that webinar about Snap 101 and what new advocates need to know about Snap and help form like a foundation for what these cuts are proposing. So I want to just thank you all for taking time out of your day, especially on a fast notice, quick turnaround on this, and to Aaron, Kate, Steve, and everybody at FRAC for making this happen. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good weekend.
Yeah.